Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about everything that you can either direct sow or transplant in the garden. Beets, onions, leafy greens like kale and lettuce. This is the perfect time to get your cool weather crops in the garden if you haven't done so already. I'm 2 weeks before my last frost date, but it doesn't matter where you're located. If you are 2 weeks before your last frost date, this video will apply to you. Let's get started. This is a great time to get your onion seedlings planted in the garden. These have been hardened off for about 2 weeks. Bulbing onions should be spaced at least 4 inches apart. I also added a little of the mycorrhizal inoculant powder into each planting hole. This helps the roots form a symbiotic relationship with the soil so that they can take up nutrients better and water. And then basically you just want to plant the onions at the same depth that they were in their seed starting tray. You do not want to bury the white part of a bulbing onion. Unlike scallions or green onions that actually benefit from being planted a little deeper. When it comes to leafy greens like lettuces, bok choy, and kale, and always be sure, as a reminder, to harden everything off for 1 to 2 weeks. These also need to be planted at the same depth that they were in their seed starting tray. So you just make a hole the size of the root ball and gently lift your seedlings out of the tray and place them in the hole. Unlike onions that benefited from the mycorrhizal powder, brassicas like kale and bok choy, even radishes, anything in the brassica family doesn't actually benefit from the mycorrhizal powder, so it won't hurt it, it just won't benefit it. So I'm not adding it here for these, but I did add it in for my lettuce. The planting for these is exactly the same for all of the leafy greens. And always follow spacing instructions on your seed packet or the tag that comes with the transplants that you buy from a nursery. Something that is important to keep in mind is, especially now during the springtime when conditions are cool and damp, all of your leafy greens are susceptible to snails and slugs. Something simple that you can do is take crushed eggshells and sprinkle them around the leafy greens. This acts as a deterrent because they are soft bodied, and so they don't like to crawl across anything that is jagged or sharp that may cut them. So everything I sowed 2 weeks ago, that would have been 4 weeks before my last frost date, has germinated. All of the peas along the trellises have sprouted. So this is still a good time for you to get your peas in the ground, and especially now that the soil is warming up, they will germinate even faster than mine germinated. So this is a sweet spot for planting peas. All of the radishes also germinated. Radishes are very fast growing, 20 to 30 days typically. So when these finish, I can actually sow a whole new row of radishes or replace them with something more heat loving. The carrots have also germinated. So if you haven't planted your radishes and carrots yet, this is a good time to get them started. So that 2 to 4 week period before the last frost is a really great time to be planting these root crops and these cooler weather crops as well. This is some bok choy that I sowed directly from seed, and then more radishes. Something to consider when you are gardening is, your succession plan. What will you plant once you pull something out? So radishes are quick growing. When they come out, what are you going to replace them with? And then if you have some empty space, what can you fill in there? That's a great place to put herbs and flowers and your heat-loving vegetables when you pull out the cooler weather crops. I'm going to plant some beets here in between the peas and some lettuce and radishes. Beets need to be spaced about 4 inches apart. They also benefit from being soaked in water for 12 to 24 hours. Each seed contains multiple seeds, so when they sprout, they do require thinning so that the roots can properly develop. Plant beet seeds a 1/2 inch to 1 inch deep, and these also make a great plant to succession plant. So you can plant several, and then in a couple of weeks you can plant several more, and this way you have a consistent crop of beets throughout the summer. Both cilantro and parsley are cool weather herbs, so when the heat of the summer kicks in, they are both likely to bolt. And so if you can get your hands on a slow bolting cilantro, that would be ideal. But both of these are perfect for planting in early spring, and you can even plant them again in fall. And if you can find a spot in your, let's say, raised bed or your garden that has a little bit of shade, they will both prefer that area because it'll keep them cooler than they would be if they were obviously in full sun. So like along the wall of your raised bed would be perfect, or alongside something that is maybe going to grow a little bit taller. But both of these are perfect for early spring planting. And when it comes to cilantro, since it does have a tendency to bolt when the heat of the summer kicks in, you can also succession plant cilantro every couple of weeks, so you do have cilantro throughout the summer. Both parsley and cilantro can be planted at a 1/4 inch depth. And also make sure you're hardening off everything. This is some parsley and anise that will be planted over the next week. And so I'm starting it off in shade, and then I will be moving it gradually into the sun to be planted next week. When your seed potatoes arrive, they will have eyes on them. You should keep them in a cool, dark location until you're ready to sprout them. Now, the sprouts on the potatoes will grow from the eyes. They should be about a 1/2 inch to an inch tall when you're planting them in the garden. So if they haven't yet gotten those sprouts, you can see the little pointy sprouts coming from the eyes, you want to have about 2 to 3 on each potato. To encourage sprouting, move the potatoes into a bright location. You also want to cure any potatoes that are too large. So cut these potatoes into a manageable size. They should be roughly the size of a golf ball. Any potatoes that are relatively smaller in size, you can leave whole. And when you do cut these potatoes, you do want to make sure that each individual potato has 2 to 3 sprouts on it. And this whole potato is roughly the size of the one I cut, so I'm not going to actually cut that. The cut side of the potato should be completely dried out and scabbed over before the potato is planted in the soil to prevent it rotting once it is planted. Once you're satisfied with the size of your sprouts, it's time to plant your potatoes. You want to have loose, well draining soil like this. Now, this is a 20-gallon grow bag. You could put 4 potatoes in this bag. You don't want to fill the bag all the way up because we're going to do something called hilling. You'll leave about 4 to 6 inches of soil at the bottom of the bag. Make a well for your potato. Sprinkle some bone meal at the bottom of the planting hole and mix it in well. This will provide the nutrients that the potato needs to form very strong roots. Sprinkle a little bit of worm castings in the planting hole as well. This is a slow release fertilizer which will help the potato take in more nutrients, and it's just a great organic element to add to your planting hole of just about any vegetable that you're growing. And lastly, if you have it on hand, you can sprinkle a little bit of that mycorrhizal powder in the planting hole. Place your potato sprout side up and cover it with about 3 inches of soil. When the potato reaches 6 to 8 inches, we will then add about 3 to 4 inches more soil around the potato. And we will do that every 3 weeks or so as the potato is growing. It accomplishes 2 things, which is encourages those potatoes to grow along the stem, and it prevents sun from hitting the potato, which could cause the potatoes to become toxic. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss upcoming videos.